everyone, it's Amanda. Today I'm going to be doing a wrap up for a lot of the books that I've read recently, so a recent reads video, and I have a lot of books to talk about. I think some of them are from June and then in July and some of August. I just wanted to do a recent reads video because I've read a lot of really good books recently that I haven't talked about yet on my channel. If you hear panting in the background, it is actually the doggos, because they just went on a walk. So first we have People Leave Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. This one I read in June and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It follows a girl and her best friend who become estranged because of an event that occurred at their last vacation, which is the last time they saw each other as well. And you get to figure out kind of what that situation was as the book goes on. But our main character, she's super stagnant in her job. She doesn't have a lot of adventures anymore without her best friend by her side. So she asks him if he will go on vacation with her for the last time and just kind of rekindle their friendship. But it might turn into a relationship, it turns out, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the dynamic between their friendship and how it built up and how we got to see flashbacks to their relationship before it became a love interest situation. I know some people said the characters were kind of bland or they didn't like the quirkiness of the female main character, but I ended up really liking her more than Sally Thorne's character from her past book. These were both Sugar and Spice book picks, the Sally Thorne one and this one, so I definitely like this one a lot better than Second First Impressions. So I highly recommend it for this last month of summer if you wanted to pick up a summer read. I think it's perfect. It takes you on vacation and it takes you on their past vacation, so you get to see a lot of the world with them and it's just super fun. Next we have Tristix Venom by Penelope Douglas. I also read this in June, rated it 5 stars. It was definitely a favorite of mine. I love Penelope Douglas's writing and I don't know, I just felt like it was such a fun time and I really had a blast reading all 600 of those pages. Now it was a little bit too long, I will admit, like it did drag a bit. And the relationship was definitely very dark in the beginning with a lot of bullying. And I think I talked about this in my mid-year book freakout tag, so I'll link that in the cards if you want to see some of my mid-year stats. But for this, I really liked it. I really liked the brothers. I wish she would be making some brother books. I want to know more about Macon and Army. And I just really liked their relationship build up. It was super fun and different, and bullying is always kind of, you know, it's hard to like, but at the same time, I do like it myself. So I personally thought it was so fun and fresh, but I know some people probably will hate this a lot, but their tension, you cannot deny it. It's very much there. And Penelope Douglas just makes you really care about the side characters as well in her books, and you always want more from them. So it's no exception with this one. The steam was really hot, as Penelope Douglas does always deliver on, so no surprise there. 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know what else to say. Next we have A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This one I thought I was going to love. It is a childhood best friends to lovers following a tragic event happening, and one of them moves away and so they become very estranged. But when he moves back, he wonders why he lost all contact with her, because she never sent him letters after a certain point when he left. So he comes back and wonders, well, what happened? You literally stopped talking to me. And there's a huge event that takes place. So it is not my favorite at all. In fact, I really hated it. I rated it 2 stars, I think. I loved the father relationship in this one between the guy and his dad. That was a really good relationship because you got to see them as they struggled with their relationship because of some events that happened. It is hard to talk about this book because there's an event that happens that you're not supposed to spoil because it's like a plot twist kind of. So I won't go into it, but the father dynamic was really good in this one for father-son. But I just didn't like Poppy as a character. I thought she was super like hippy-dippy positivity, and I'm just not that way, so I can't really relate. And I have backup for this. My friends Nicole and Haley also didn't like this book. We buddy read it together and it was really fun, but we all agreed that Poppy was just annoying in the end. But a lot of people did like this book a lot. Like, I've seen a lot of 5 out of 5 stars. I've seen a lot of people crying at this book. It is a tearjerker. I personally didn't cry because I couldn't buy into these characters in any way, shape, or form. After it started getting really cheesy and just really like preaching to you how you should feel about life, I tuned it out, so I didn't feel anything towards the ending at all. I was just like, oh my god, thank god it's over. So for me, it was not a win, but I think if you are looking for this type of book that's going to give you perspective on life and maybe be really sad in the process, then you will enjoy it. And I've seen a lot of videos of people loving it, so I'm just in the minority here, but my friends also agreed with me. So are we the minority? I don't know. So then in a turn of events, we have a 5 out of 5 star from Kennedy Ryan's Real, and this one follows a girl with lupus, and she is an aspiring actress, and she meets with this really well-known director where they aren't allowed to be in love. So it's kind of a forbidden love story in a way, but it's not taboo at all. It's just one of those things where like you're not supposed to date your director, but they have an instant pull and connection, and he's really there for her throughout this whole story. It also just has a lot of commentary on life itself, chronic illness, the Black experience, and just so many good things on the history of Black culture, like in art, movies, and film. It's just so good. I highly recommend this one. It has such an epic love story, and this really shows the obstacles that love can go through. It's really beautiful, and I highly recommend it. Watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar high. Next, I read Tell Me Pretty Lies by Charlie Rose, and I believe I did a vlog on these. Yes, I did. I did a romance vlog. I'll link it in the cards and down below. So if you wanted more thoughts on any of these, I think 3 books, then that vlog did go over these. Honestly, I don't remember a lot about Tell Me Pretty Lies, which tells you what I rated this book. It was mediocre 3 stars. I did like the steam and the stepbrother romance trope, but in the end, I don't even remember what it's about, honestly. I just remember there was a barn, and they always wanted to go to the barn, and there was like a huge twist in the end and a reveal. But do I remember it? I honestly do not. And I did read it physically, so I should remember. But I did enjoy it. I liked it. Does that tell you anything? I feel like I need to, hold on. My head is empty today. I still don't remember, even after reading the synopsis. Ooh. I think that tells you enough about the story. So if you want thoughts on the book itself, I'm going to direct you to when I actually read it, and you can go watch that video. I'm so sorry. I did not prepare for this video. I thought I would remember every one of the books because I'm pretty good at remembering things, but this one I literally can't remember. But I do remember there was a thunderstorm aspect, there was a barn, and there was like kind of a hot love interest going on, but it was pretty, you know, just a fun read. It was fun, but it wasn't anything special. Next, I read Darling by K. Akram. This is a Peter Pan retelling, and it is very much a dark Peter Pan retelling. You don't really realize how dark it is until you really get into the nitty-gritty of it, but I really liked this one. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. It was really different from anything that I've read before, and it was really different from any YA fantasy. In the end, there wasn't a whole lot of fantasy elements. In fact, there wasn't any fantasy elements, and I think I misconstrued this in my head when I was going into it. So this book is more of a darker Peter Pan thriller than a fantasy, and I think going into it, you should maybe know that, because I was thinking there was going to be some fantasy elements in this because it's a Peter Pan retelling, and you just assume, I think. And I didn't really read into it when I went in because I don't really do that with my books. So going in, I really was looking for all of these themes of magical realism at least. And that's just not what you get. You get a really intense thriller that has some really good commentary on the vulnerability of children and how adults can take advantage of them, I think is the root theme in this book. And they were also LGBTQIA+, so that also added to the story. And I think it also was trying to show how those kids can also be extra vulnerable to adults that want to provide them love, but it might be for a bad reason. So I really enjoyed it. I know some of the Whiners, my book club, did not enjoy this one, but I really thought it was good. It was entertaining. It did have a little bit of plot holes and a little bit of things missing overall. But I just think it was a really fun and unique read. So 4 stars for that one. Next, we have the 3 thrillers that I read recently for a thriller vlog that I'll link in the cards and down below. But I read Hairpin Bridge, The Final Girl Support Group, and Survive the Night. I rated Hairpin Bridge 3 stars. It was just mediocre. I really was disappointed in this one. I was really hyped up about it, but I ended up not liking it a whole lot. It follows a sister who lost her twin recently, and she goes to the bridge where her sister allegedly committed suicide, but she believes that she did not, and that the cop that found her body actually is involved in her death. So that kind of is the premise there. It basically takes place on this bridge and in cars, and it goes from there. It's kind of a mystery, and I just didn't love it. It was really drawn out for no reason, and the end was just like so rushed while the middle was not, and the perspective changes kind of threw me off. It has a blog post kind of thing going on, and I just kind of didn't like that. So 3 stars for that one. And then Survive the Night, so good. 5 stars from me. I know a lot of people don't like this one. I've been looking and I'm like, what? How do you not like this? It's so good. But I really liked it. It follows a girl who gets in the car with a strange man because she wants to get back home as quickly as possible. So she gets a ride share with a stranger, which is already stupid, but it's fun. It is such a good thriller, and she thinks that he is a serial killer that killed her best friend. And why'd she get in the car with him in the first place? We don't know, but it's good for the story. And then we have the Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. And this one I also rated 3 stars, which was a huge disappointment again, because I love Grady Hendrix, I love Taylor Adams. I was really thinking these would all be 5 stars, but this one also fell flat for me. I think it was just not my thing. It had a slasher vibe, and I don't know if I'm just not into that, but I haven't read anything similar to it, so I can't really say. But this one I just think was a little bit boring towards the beginning to 50%. It did really pick up towards the end, and I was really liking the end of it, but it was really hard to follow. So we're following like 6 characters, and they really come at you super fast in the beginning, so you're kind of trying to follow all of these women that are final girl, and it gets kind of overwhelming sometimes, at least for me. And then our character, we don't know if she's reliable or not. She is one of the final girls that's in this support group, and she's super paranoid. She thinks that someone is out to get them, and she's convinced when one of them goes missing that this person that's been after them is coming for her. So they really have to team up. They're all very different, and they don't particularly get along. They just kind of get along because they have to. So it just follows kind of their story. Now I will say this had some great scenes of horror in it. Like the gore and the creepiness was really good. I was pretty scared sometimes, so I did really like that, because books tend to not give me that feeling very easily. So there was a scene that was really good that I particularly remember pretty vividly. So if you're into horror, I think it's worth a shot, because Grady Hendrix is a really good writer. I just think this one wasn't particularly for me personally. It's hard for me to find thrillers and horrors that I like, because it's not my go-to genre, so it's really hard to find like 5-star ones for me. I'm still trying to figure out my taste there, so we'll see if we find some other books that I like in that genre. But next we get into some more romance. My favorite romance of the year, maybe. I don't know. It's really hard because I love Long Shot so much, but this is definitely my favorite rom-com that I've ever read. It is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is so good, and we're discussing it this Thursday on my channel at 8 p.m. EST. So be sure to look out for that if you do decide to read it, or that you've read it already and you want to discuss it with us. Definitely come to the live show. I can't wait to talk about it. But we follow Piper and Brendan, and Piper is this girl. It's Schitt's Creek inspired. I didn't say that. It's Schitt's Creek inspired, and basically the thing that's inspired by Schitt's Creek is Piper as a character. She's inspired by, I think her name's Alexis in the show, and she is this really preppy like Instagram sensation. She really cares about her image online and just her image in general. She gets dumped in the beginning of the book, and he says that she has no value other than her looks, basically. So she's trying to prove us wrong, and it's so good. She gets sent to this town that her father died in, and she has to kind of face that, but also there's so much more to the story. She gets to meet this love interest there that's a fisherman, and it's so good. It's so cute, and the banter is amazing. Brendan is one of my favorite men that I've ever read about. I absolutely love him. He was literally perfect. I can't think of a better man in a book than Brendan. He's so perfect. The way he treats her, the way that they communicate, and their fights in the book weren't annoying to me, which was very important. And I will say, like, I don't get annoyed easily in romance books. I'm just expecting the third act at this point. But this one did not irritate me like some books do. And so that really added more stars. I mean, this could be like a 10-star for me. So I will say, definitely read this. If you read anything that I suggest ever, read It Happened One Summer. It's so fun. Definitely read it before August is up. Please. I'm begging you. You gotta read it. It's a great rom-com. Make you laugh. There's a sister relationship. There's another side character that might have something to do with the sister in the next book. And it's just beautiful. And there's a great setting as well in this fisherman town. You just have to read it, please. Next, I've been reading something completely out of my comfort zone, which is Sweat and Soap, Volume 1. And this one I'm reading with Mo and Christine from Ruby's Digest and Nitty and Rachel. And Nitty and Rachel have already read this series, but they're reading it kind of with us while we talk about it. And I'm behind, actually. I still have to read a couple more volumes to get up to speed, but this book follows a girl who sweats a lot, and then there's a guy who makes soap, and she works for the company, and he smells her one day, and he's like, oh my god, what is that combination of smells? And how do I explain this? But it's kind of cute. It's also as creepy as it sounds in the beginning, but then you get kind of invested, and you're like, why am I invested? But also it moves super fast. So I don't know if that's a manga thing in love stories, but they were saying I love you after like 2 days. So I was a little shook, but I definitely want to keep reading this to discuss it with my friends, and it's just kind of a fun time. Definitely out of my comfort zone. I never read anything like it before. I've never read a manga love story at all, so I'm really enjoying it, and it's really quick and fun. Next, I picked up House of Salt and Sorrows, and this one is so good. I haven't picked up YA fantasy in a hot minute, so that might be something to do with my 5-star rating for this one. I loved it so much. It was so dark, and it was something where it was so fresh for a YA fantasy. And I don't know if it's because I haven't read anything in the YA fantasy realm in a while, or if this book was just amazing. I thought it was so dark and mystical and creepy. It's set on this sea town, and these sisters are all dying. They think that they have a curse because all the sisters have died and they don't know who's next. And there's a love story going on as well. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the writing style. I just really liked the dark atmosphere for this YA fantasy. I can't wait for fall as well to get back into these kind of darker, creepier YA fantasies. But overall, I loved this book. The love interest was really fun. It was just really good. I just think it was a great 5-star YA fantasy. You have to read this. If you like YA fantasy, I think this one is a very unique read, so I definitely recommend it. And I'm reading Small Favors right now, actually, so I'm hoping that one's just as good. So far it is. It's giving me the really creepy vibes, just like the House of Salt and Sorrow did. So that's all I wanted. I love creepy YA books. Also, it was just perfectly executed. I think the pacing was perfect. The mystery element was great. The twist was great. I just think this was masterfully done. It wasn't too long. It was perfect. That's all I have to say. Next, I read That Weekend by Kara Thomas. This was a YA thriller. I rated it 3 stars, so it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't also just groundbreaking and amazing. I thought it was okay. I didn't like the main character or any of the characters for that matter. I do think the writing style was really nice. It was very fast-paced in terms of like the writing structure itself. It wasn't fast-paced as in plotline though. I'm wanting to decipher that. It wasn't fast-paced because of the plot. It was fast-paced because of the writing style. Very short sentences, just a very quick read. I mean, you were interested in figuring out the story, but the story does rely heavily on amnesia, which is not my favorite trope in books. So keep that in mind if you're going into the story, because it does rely on this for any sort of plot twist slash the mystery it relies on this character having amnesia. I did end up liking the plot twist in the end. There were some huge twists and there were multiple twists, so I thought it was really interesting. I do think one of the twists was like, really? I can't believe that even happened. There were no clues at all towards this one thing happening. Maybe you could have guessed it, and maybe there was like one clue that I just overlooked, but there's one twist that was just wild. So I thought that was pretty good though. I actually did like the wild twist, even though it was far-fetched, and a lot of the times people like to have clues laid out so that the twist makes sense. In this case, it still works for me because I liked the twist that happened. So I did like the book in general, but I just didn't like the characters or the dynamic between the best friends that are involved. Basically, the story follows a girl who goes on a trip with her best friend and her other best friend that are together, but she's had a crush on the guy for a long time, except her best friend got to be with him. So she's kind of jealous, whatever, and she just found her boyfriend cheating on her or something of that nature. And so she was supposed to go to this lake house with her boyfriend and then them as a couple, but she ends up going alone with them, and then she wakes up and she is on the mountain with nobody and her head's cracked open. She can't even remember anything that happened that weekend, and she goes to the hospital, still can't remember anything. And so we have to figure out what's going on. Why can't she find her friends? They're missing, and what happened to them? Why can't she remember anything? What's the drama here? And there's a lot of family drama between Kat's family, which is the friend, and then you get to figure out what kind of happened from there. It's pretty good. I mean, I would recommend it as a YA thriller. I think it was pretty unique with the twists, so it had some strong points there. I just wasn't a huge fan of the story overall. Then we have a 5-star from the Whiners pick, Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. I loved this book so much, but let me get this out of the way. Firstly, this book is highly triggering. I'm telling you right now, if you have had any problems with eating habits in the past, or if you are triggered by anything in regards to weight, this book is not going to be light on you. I personally was very triggered by this, and I do struggle a lot with like eating and stuff like that, and I don't know, it's on my mind a lot. I have a lot of problems with that kind of stuff and thinking that people don't want to be my friend because I always think like people aren't going to like me if I gain like 5 pounds. It's so bad. But that's not the point. The point is that this story is highly triggering, and I'm not just saying that, I'm saying it really seriously right now. If you have problems with eating, do not read this. Very hard to read, and it has a lot of really good commentary on it and a lot of really, really real things. But I just think that if you think this is going to be hard on you, it's not worth reading. That being said, I do think it was a wonderful read with a really great sister relationship and a really great portrayal of the hardships of sister relationships when they're going through a lot, and just the understanding that sisters can have for each other. I think it was very beautiful to see our main character Jane grow over time and realize her worth. So this story actually follows Jane and June, and they are really estranged sisters, but June tells Jane that she has cancer. I think it's ovarian cancer. And Jane's like, oh shit, I need to be here for my sister. They are trying to have this sort of relationship, but they've been not talking for so long that they're trying to build a relationship back up, and they're trying to have a relationship, but it's still hard, and they still fight, and they still bring up old memories that have hurt them in the past. And then there's also like the mom and dad dynamic, the parents and what role they played. And it's just really beautiful. It has a lot of commentary on the life experience itself and being a young woman. And the last book that I read recently was When the Stars Fall by Emery Rose. This is a horrible book. I hated it so much. I rated it 1 star, and I'm really disappointed by that because I wanted to love it. I won't talk too much about it, but it follows a girl who, it's childhood best friends to lovers. And the whole book, the whole first half is them falling in love as children, and then he moves off to the Marines, and he comes back and he is abusive and he's horrible to her, and she she tries to be the best person she can for him, but he ends up being abusive still. And then he leaves her and he comes back 6 years later and he wants her back. And she's giving him this shot. And I just can't get behind that. I'm like, he was abusive to you. I'm not going to want your happily ever after. I don't want it. It doesn't matter if he has PTSD. The author, I think, was trying to give some commentary on PTSD, but it was not working. It was not working. It wasn't the right way to do it, in my opinion. I just hated this. So that's that book. I really hated it. I didn't like the relationship at all. It just wasn't a good book. It was also really long, and I would be in a slump right now if it wasn't for my competitive readathon. So those are all the books that I've read recently. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.